Alderman Beeman.
Here.
Alderman Saley. Here. Administrator Lippert.
Here.
Mayor Cozy.
Here.
Attorney Law.
Here.
Alderman Dilworth.
Here.
Alderman Sykes.
Here. Clair, by joining for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item we have is the consent agenda. We have the council report, June 1st, 2023 through June 15th, 2023. The Board of Aldermen meeting minutes from June 5th, 2023, and the collection report for May 2023.
I make a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
May I have roll call, please?
Alderman Dilworth. Aye. Alderman Sykes.
Aye.
Alderman Saley.
Aye.
Alderman Beeman.
Aye.
Thank you. Next, we have a presentation of new hire police officer Brandy Dietzler.
I have an applicant that made it through the process. Present to the board Brandy Dietzler. She's a resident of St. Clair. She has prior experience with the Pacific Police Department. She passed over re-upping with post and did very well on her psych exam. And request to put her on the department effective immediately. Starting date of this Wednesday, to begin field training.
Make a motion to approve this hire recommendation.
A second.
May I have roll call, please?
Alderman Beeman.
Aye.
Alderman Saley.
Aye.
Alderman Dilworth.
Aye.
Alderman Sykes.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Something a little different that I'm going to start doing from now on is the presentation where the officer is sworn in your presence, and also a badge pinning ceremony.
You can raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Brandy Dietzler,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I possess the qualifications
that I possess the qualifications
as police officer
as police officer
as prescribed by law,
as prescribed by law,
that I support the Constitution of the United States
that I support the Constitution of the United States
and the state of Missouri,
and the state of Missouri,
and the provisions affecting the states of the laws of the state.
so that
For the provisions of the laws of this state
of the provisions of the laws of this state
and affecting the city of St. Clair
affecting the city of St. Clair
and the ordinances,
and the ordinances.
and I faithfully demean myself in office. I faithfully demean myself in
I
office.
faithfully demean myself in office. So help me God.
I'm
Sorry.
I did. Thank you.
You probably got to stab me with it.
At her request, she requests her nephew to pin her badge on.
Elijah, hey. You want to put my Yeah. Good job.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Aw, thanks, buddy.
Congratulations, Officer Dietzler.
Thank you.
Welcome to the family.
Thank you, Chief.
2022, right?
Next, we have the 2022 annual audit with Tammy Alstott with Sigich.
I'm going to go over the audit just a little bit with you. Turn over past the table of contents. You'll have the first letter, and that is our independent auditor's report. They kind of changed it around this year, and they also made it a little bit longer. So now instead of two pages, now it's 3 pages. But the good part of this report is now the opinion is right on the first page. So you'll see our opinion right on the first page of that independent auditor's report. I'm talking about the big report in the round.
Oh.
Sorry about that. I'm sorry.
Independent audit.
Right, correct. Correct, sorry about that. Just like my staff, I expect everybody just to read my mind, sorry. Okay, so on the report, you'll see the first part of the report says, report on the audit of the financial statements. This is where our opinion is on your financial statements. And it really says that in the second paragraph. It says, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective modified cash basis, financial position of the governmental activities, the business type activities, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information of the city as of December 31st, 2022, and the respective changes in modified cash basis, financial position, and where applicable cash flows thereof for the year, then in accordance with the modified cash basis of accounting described in note A3. But that is an unmodified opinion on your financial statements, so that's a very good opinion for you to have on your financial statements. I always like to point that out. And then it does give you a little bit of other information. It's just a really long letter, such as like on page 2, it talks about what are your responsibilities as management. So you're responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of these financial statements. All I do is I just really put the opinion on there. That's really all I do. I mean, these are your financial statements, not mine. I just put the opinion on there. And then I do have all these responsibilities where I have to exercise professional judgment. I have to maintain professional skepticism. I have to have an understanding of internal control and different things like that. On page 4 is the management discussion analysis. This is a short synopsis of what happened during the year in the city. First, it focuses on the government-wide basis, and that is the basis as if we have all your infrastructure, all your capital assets and everything on the financial statements, and all your debt. It does not include accounts receivable and accounts payable because this is on the modified cash basis. So you'll see on the government-wide basis, the assets of the city exceeded its liabilities for the most recent fiscal year by $19.2 million. And the city had unrestricted net position of this amount of $2 million, of approximately $2 million. And we'll see this a little bit later in the financial statement. And then what you're used to seeing, the next sentence is as if you're on the regular modified cash basis, and this is without the infrastructure, without the debt. So it's as of the close of the current fiscal year, the city's governmental funds reported an ending fund balance of $2.5 million. Now, the $2.5 million is only governmental funds, does not include the enterprise funds, which is the water and sewer funds. Okay. At the end of the current fiscal year, unassigned fund balance for the general fund was $1 million, and that is unassigned. So that is your unassigned fund balance for the general fund. And we'll talk a little bit more about because you do have some restricted fund balance, we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get there. On page 6, you have your condensed financial statement, and again, this is on the government-wide basis. So you'll see there you have current assets, which is mainly cash and investments. then you have your capital assets, then you have your long-term debt, and then you have your net position. So you see your total assets for the year went up from 19.3 million last year to 20 million. And that was mainly due to the increase in cash. Then your liabilities went down from 1.1 million down to 899,000, and that was because of you paying your debt down, and that's very good. So your net position then went up from 18.1 million up to 19 million dollars. Now of that 19 million dollars, you had almost 16 million in net investment in capital assets, and that means that you cannot spend. That's not spendable money at all. That's your capital. That's all your infrastructure less all your debt. So, and then you had your restricted assets, net assets of 1.3 million, and then your unrestricted of 1.8 million. Then on the next page is your the statement of activities for the funds. So you'll notice you had your revenue was pretty close to last year, 6.6 million it went down a little bit to 6.4 million, and that has to do with the contributions, grants, and capital grants and contributions, and that's something that changes almost every year. It depends on what kind of grants you're getting from MoDOT or different things like that. So that changes every year. You'll notice that your charges for services come in about the same each year. So it's 2.3 million compared to 2.3 million in this year. Your sales tax is 1.6 million, and it was still 1.6 million this year. And then you had your American Recovery Act plan revenue that was $484,000 this year. So then your expenses did go up just a little bit, not too bad. Went from 5.1 million up to 5.4 million, but it still left you a positive net change in your net position by $1 million. Then on the next page, you'll see we talk about the governmental funds. So at the end of the fund balances were 2.5 million, as we said before. The general fund balance increased by 462,000. Let's see, and the street improvement fund decreased by $57,000. Then you have the proprietary funds, which is the water and sewer funds. Then you have a little more detailed information about the capital assets, condensed information about the capital assets on page 9. You have more detailed information in the notes to the financial statements in note C. And as I said before, down on the bottom of page 9, you have your long-term debt. You can see there, as of December 31st, 21, you had 972,000 in debt, and this year you had $684,000 of debt. And so you did pay off one issue, the certificates of participation in the business type activities of $70,000. You paid them off, so this year you didn't have to worry about them. You paid them off, so that was very good. You had $70,000 left, and you had to pay those off. I know that's always a good thing. On page 11 is the more detailed information of the statement of net positions, which we talked a little bit about before. On page 12 is the more detailed information again about the statement of activities. On page 13 is the balance sheet. Now this is what you're used to seeing. This is your governmental funds. So I like to focus on the general fund because that's your normal operating account. You had total assets of 2.2 million. You had a few liabilities of $23,000. And you came down to $2.1 million of fund balance. And as I said before, $1 million of that fund balance is unassigned, which you can use that for meeting creditors or other things that you need it for. But then you had $960,000 that was left in the ARPA funding. The ARPA funds, which is restricted money. It can't be used for just anything. Well, sort of can and it sort of can't now, but it has to be. It's restricted until you spend it. And then once you spend it, it becomes unrestricted then. Okay. So really, you have that money setting in the cash and investments as of 12/31/22. But we do have that as restricted fund balance, so that's a little bit different. On page 14, it shows you how to reconcile from the governmental funds to the government-wide funds, such as you take your total fund balance, you add back your capital assets, you subtract your liabilities, and come out to your total net position. On page 15, you have your statement of revenues and expenditures. You see there on, we have total revenues of $4.2 million, and the general fund had $3.2 million of that. Then you had total expenditures of $2.7 million, leaving a revenue over expenditures of $455,000. You had some proceeds from capital assets of $6.8 million, excuse me, $6,800. So then that left us a positive net change in fund balance of $462,000 for the general fund. So you went up from $1.7 million up to $2.1 million. Now, I've been at the city a little while here, and I remember when this was close to being negative, so I'm so happy. I'm so happy this is coming out right. I don't know if anybody was here at that point, but I guess I've been here too long. So on the next page, page 16, you have how again you reconcile the governmental funds to the the governmental funds, government-wide funds. Then on page 17 is your water and sewer funds. So on your water and sewer funds, we have total assets of $926,000. You have total non-current assets, which are your capital assets there of $7.5 million. Then you had a total liabilities of $572,000, leaving us a net position of $7.9 million. And of that amount, unrestricted net position is $723,000. And you'll see over on page 18, you had operating revenues this year in the water and sewer fund of $1.8 million. You had operating expenses of $1.9 million, leaving an operating loss of $46,000. But then you had the sales tax from the bond retirement, from the bond retirement of $346,000. You paid interest and fiscal charges, so that left you a net non-operating revenues of $330,000, leaving a positive change in fund balance, net position of $283,000. So your net position went from $7.6 million up to $7.9 million in the water and sewer fund. On page 19 is a statement of cash flows. This statement actually tells you how did the money come in during the year and how did it go out. And this is only, again, for the enterprise funds. So you had receipts from customers and users, $1.8 million. You were able to pay suppliers of $900,000. You had pay employees of $626,000. So you had a net cash provided by operating activities of $325,000. Then you had receipts from taxes of $346,000. Then you were able to purchase capital assets of $272,000. You were able then to pay the principal on the debt of $185,000, and then the interest on that debt of $18,000. Had a little bit of interest income, $2,200. So you had an increase in cash equivalents this year of $192,000. So that's good. Starting on page 20 is a notes to the financial statements. The summary notes is first. I'm not going to go through that. That really did not change this year. It's about the same as last year. I do like to say I like to point out over on page 26 that of course you have to make sure that all your cash and investments are secured or collateralized as of December 31st. And you'll note on page 26, kind of in the middle under the cash and investments, that second paragraph, as of December 31st, the bank's balances were, the city's bank balances were entirely secured or collateralized with securities held by the city or by its agent in the city's name or by a letter of credit.